Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, actually. Uh, this is the Aging Experts, and I just want to say we are so excited. We have a great person on for you to get to know today, and I'm going to let Barbara introduce her. But first of all, I'm Carol Henderson. I have Life by Design, and I help you to live the second half of your life better than the first. And as always, we want you to spiral up instead of spiraling down with your thoughts, your intentions, the way you live, your health, all of those things. So, my great co host, that is just, what can I say? What can I say? I love her bunches. She gave me that sign right there, that little white one. So, yeah, she gave it to me when she was here at my house. We know each other in real life, not just in Zoom life. So, anyway, so Barbara.
Hi, I'm Barbara Ellison. I'm a transformational life trainer, and I have realized that I am working with baby boomers to just have them have the rest of their life be the best of their life. And it is just all about knowing who they are outside of their titles. And so that's who I work with, and I am just having a ball with it. Well, in the course of that, I had a chance to talk to Brenda, and we just absolutely hit it off. And she was gracious enough to come on at short notice to come on the show. So, welcome, 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 Brenda. Tell us about you and how you and what you do to make a difference in the world.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Barbara and Carol, for having me here today. I'm really excited. Oh, how I make a difference in the world. I help people in a couple of different ways. One of the things that I'm focusing on at the moment is creating a business where I help people with mindset. And I help them if they have a dream for a business or if they have a brand new business, I help them build and scale it with particular steps. I have created a couple of different businesses from the ground up. One was almost $1 million business in 2 years, and that was actually is a mask business. It's a mask for the deaf and hard of hearing. And I am building my own coaching business, and I help other people to do the same. So I'm so excited about that. I work primarily with women. That's who I relate to. Also in the second phase of their lives, or the second stage of their lives.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Tell us about this mask business. Tell kind of give us a little bit of information about it and how it relates to people in the second half of their life and hearing issues.
Sure.
And it may not be second half of their life. It just seems more common in the second half.
Yes. So one of the things I do is facilitate large groups. And once we started wearing masks, I couldn't understand what people were saying. I couldn't read their facial expressions. So I'm very good at reading the room. I couldn't read the room. Also, a very dear friend of mine is deaf, and he could not communicate because his mouth was covered. So there's a misconception that deaf people know sign language, American Sign Language. About 2% of the population is deaf, like from birth deaf. Frequently, they use sign language to communicate, but about 15% of the population is deaf or hard of hearing, adult onset deafness or adult onset hard of hearing. They don't use sign language, they read lips. And so I created a mask to fill a need for people to feel included, to feel heard. So I created what's called Smile Mask. It's a mask that's clear. It doesn't fog, so you can still see people's mouths when they're communicating. And I've had some amazing conversations. I had one mom on the Zoom with me who was deaf, and she was in tears because she brought her daughter to the doctor and she didn't know what the doctor was saying, and the doctor was refusing to remove his mask. So I did it because it's something that people needed, and the human connection is so important, and I really feel like all throughout the pandemic that we were really missing that, and that was my one contribution to be able to help people to connect.
Wow. So how did she resolve that with a doctor? I mean, it boggles my mind. Well, number one, the fear. But a doctor to not take his mask off to communicate with his patient. I mean, did he write everything down? I mean, what did he do to communicate with her?
Right. He wrote things down. She ended up buying some of my masks and bringing it into the office and asking them to wear it.
And
And
did
I
they?
don't blame the provider. I mean, they're at the beginning, especially, everyone was so petrified of COVID that,
Yeah.
so.
Yes. Yeah, I get it. But I mean, even if he were to stand 6 feet away, which was
Yeah.
one of their requirements, she could have read his lips.
Right. Yes.
You know, that
Mhm.
just that is sad to have a child that you can't get care for because of that. Of course, the stories are endless of the
Oh, there's
problems
so many
with
stories on
masks.
airlines about, a flight attendant's trying to communicate with someone and you get the blank stare because they don't know what you're saying.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is I'm not that hard of hearing. I mean, I hear pretty well, but just to go into a store and hear it's like you live in a Peanuts cartoon. The
Right.
It's
wah
unfortunate.
wah wah.
That's what it
And
feels like.
yes, yes. And so that's so hard. Yeah, and everything.
I have to say though, one of the things that comes to my mind, just the logistics of making it. Like, did you how did you actually? I mean, I understand you had the creative thought of wow, too bad we don't have to actually manufacture them. What did you do? Because lots of times people start businesses because of a need like that.
Yes.
How do you put the logistics, because you're already a business owner?
Mhm. It was
Help-
pretty funny, actually. I have a box of all the prototype masks. So I had someone sew them for me initially, because initially they were cloth. So I had someone sew them for me with just any plastic they could find. And then I ended up
Saran wrap stuck up your nose.
Yeah, it was this prototype. Okay, this is what I want it to look like. And then I had to find the non-fog plastics. So I actually called the company in the US. Our masks are made in Vietnam. So I bought the clear part in the US. I'm like, okay, how can I get it to Vietnam? Because it shipped from the Midwest to me, then to Vietnam. So then what I ended up doing, I called a UPS store in the Midwest where the product is made. Hey, if I have this thing shipped to you, could you send it to Vietnam so it could get there faster? So just ingenuity, resourcefulness, grit.
God.
God, absolutely. So it was very funny because I'm like, Majid, could you, if I send this to you and I pay you, could you send this to Vietnam? So sure enough, he did. So I had to send the plastic part to Vietnam, then they ship it to us. I hired someone once we got it going. The Vietnam person would just keep sending me a prototype until we agreed on what it looked like and that it worked and that it didn't fog. And then I hired someone to do a professional pattern for it so that I could mass produce it. They could mass produce it. And they did. And then we ended up buying, when you're buying a mask, especially a single use, I had to buy 100,000 masks. So it was quite a financial investment without knowing if it was going to be successful or not. But there's the God part. I had a belief that there was a need, and I hired a marketing company. I started my own website. I started Facebook, LinkedIn. So it was a lot. But that's how I learned. That's how you learn. I was telling Barbara earlier that I kind of fumbled forward. I just, okay, what do I need to do now? All right, what do I need to do next?
Well, and that's the thing. So many people, they have an idea of a business they want to do, but they're not filling a need. Where you saw the need and you filled the need. And if you're doing that, your business will succeed. And no one else, I assume, was doing that same thing.
Yeah,
Maybe one other person, but
there's a couple other companies. there's a couple other companies, and I obviously think our mask is better, but who's to
Yeah.
say, right?
Well, when they started coming out with the little shields,
Uh-huh.
you know, I was like, oh, well, at least you can hear people. But
Right.
then the people were wearing the shield and the mask.
I know.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm a government contractor. So I had sold some things to some of the government. I've sold many, many masks to universities, school systems. I'm a preferred vendor for one of the local school systems. I sold to one of the largest coffee companies in the world. So yeah, we've done very, very, very well in a 2-year span. And
Wonderful.
I'm happy that we don't need to wear masks anymore, for the most part. But in the areas that do, like healthcare, I still want to make these masks available
Right.
for the people who need them, and at a time that we might continue to need them. Who knows?
Right. Well, and they're talking about more stuff happening, and you know, it I think the fear factor was as big as anything, but it's because we didn't know. You know, we didn't have a way of knowing, and the videos and film coming out from overseas was so horrific
Mhm.
and stuff. So yeah, this is exciting that you did that though.
Thank
But
you.
also, I mean, think about it, you know, and I don't know if these are cleared for the operating room, but think about even during surgery or
Yep.
during some procedures that the staff, you know, they have to struggle hearing the
Right.
the guidances, the little things. You'll hand me a scalpel, you know, it's like, okay, and you hand them the forceps instead because you didn't understand.
Exactly. Right.
You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, just think that just in those little things, and they'll always wear masks for that
Yes, they always
because
will.
you
Yeah.
have to keep from spitting in somebody's hole in
Mhm.
their body. And that
Mhm.
that truly is where the masks came about. It wasn't so
Right.
much other things,
Okay.
but it was so that you didn't contaminate this open gaping wound. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
that is so cool.
Thank you. I think of food preparers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We make them
yeah,
wear a hairnet, but not a mask. Like, wait a minute. So,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But then here comes out your waitress, and she's doing this with her mask the whole time, as opposed to just coming out handing your food, you know, and not touching her face. It's like, so yeah, I land a little bit more. Yeah, I'm in Texas, guys, so we're a little bit. Somebody said y'all are kind of out there. It's like, yeah, we are, and we're proud of it.
I love it.
And Barbara's been here, so she
Yep.
knows.
It was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole
And
different world here.
yeah. Well,
And
one of the things that really struck me about your story, Brenda, is that the things that took you to create this
yeah,
for the hard of hearing and for everybody. I mean, this can be worldwide,
yes,
Mhm.
but those same qualities are what businesses need today, these days, to
Mhm.
fill a need. Don't to not just be in business to make money.
Oh gosh,
oh
right.
yes, yeah,
Absolutely.
And it's like, and I truly believe that the more we hear about stories like yours, that you did it for the altruistic, for the corroboration with all of these different people and getting this to happen.
Mhm.
That took, tenacity and grit and so
but we've heard that
absolutely.
story. I want her to tell our listeners what that one story that you told us about the mom that
Oh yeah.
to me is just heart wrenching because our listeners don't know that yet. I mean, she
Mhm.
told us that off camera.
Yes.
So
The
yeah,
mom who went to the doctor with
yeah,
her daughter, the mom is deaf. I was on a Zoom call with her because she had reached out to me about our masks. She was at the doctor with her daughter, and she's deaf, and she couldn't understand obviously what the doctor was trying to tell her about her daughter, and she was in tears with me. And that cements to me why I did this. Exactly. It's because people feel so disconnected already with wearing a mask and with, the pandemic that we are going through. And so that's the one thing I can do. One of the things I can do to help people feel connected and help her feel heard. I can't imagine. It's as if you're talking to a wall. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
So-
when you're talking to your doctor and it's about your child, you want to
That's right.
hang on every word that they say and you want to hear
Yes.
and understand every word. And so for her, that had to be just horrific.
It was.
I mean, you miss one word at the doctor and it could be the difference between health and death.
Right.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know?
Absolutely. And there's some on my website, there's some comments, but a lot of comments from hotel staff who appreciate wearing the mask, that the guests appreciated it, from preschools and schools where the children appreciated the teacher wearing a mask so they could understand them speaking. Speech pathologists, especially, people, how could you be a speech pathologist and not be able to see your mouth?
Well,
So
yeah, they say that children now are having some major issues with not knowing. Social norms is the wrong word, but not knowing how to read a face, not
cues.
knowing how
Yes.
to, that you're supposed to smile because they've
Right.
just seen this.
Right.
And some people don't smile with their eyes. They should,
Mhm.
but even if you're smiling with your eyes, it's not the same.
No, it's
And
not.
and
And when
forming words and pronunciations. My mom was a first grade teacher, so
Mhm.
I get how important that is.
Yeah.
And communication is not just words. That's the least of what we communicate with. Body language, tone of voice are much more important to the message than the actual words you're using. So if you have a barrier and you can't see the body language or you can't hear the tone, it cuts the communication down to 10%.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and that's,
And-
I used to
and-
teach that when I had the modeling agency, is how many people during the day do you see? How many people do you talk to? And we talked about, at the mall, you're shopping and you see tons of people in the mall. The sales clerk walks up and says, "Can I help you?" And go, "No, I'm just looking." But, and then it finally gets to where you're talking a little bit more about the stuff and you're paying. But I mean, there's so many levels, and so I was teaching it from a thing of you need to dress properly, you need to carry yourself properly, you need to be a model person, not necessarily somebody on a runway. And such. But yeah, the body language that you were talking about is so important. And this is probably the most important. I mean,
Right.
this is important, but this is
Right.
that this right here, this part of you is the most important.
Yep.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just thought it was the coolest story. And so it was like, oh, right, we need to have you on.
Yeah.
But yeah, because when you see people that when they have a need and they just feel so marginalized
Oh gosh, yes.
and so that unheard, and you talked about it being heard. Well, when you have that impacts every other area of life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. It's
And-
also
Or
an
life.
ADA requirement. It's also
Yeah.
an ADA requirement that you accommodate the deaf. And so how do you do that if you keep your mouth?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you said not being, because I've always wanted to learn sign language. And one time on a lark, I looked into it. Oh yeah, it takes months
Mhm.
of everyday training to learn even the even just the rudiments of sign language. So when you have especially, so then you have the older person trying to learn how to read lips, because there's a little bit of a learning curve for that too. and then they don't know how to sign.
Right. Even if you
They're
did know how to sign, the people you're interacting with don't know how to sign.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
I have a friend and his staff, and he's a high school coach.
mm,
And he, I don't know what he's doing now because his daughter was always his interpreter and she was always with him, and now she's grown. So I don't know quite what he's doing now. However, the kids at his school learned enough to communicate with them.
oh, that's
But
great.
and he could make noises to get their attention, and grunts and groans that meant different things in that arena. But yeah, I mean, highly respected coach. Everybody loves him. But even, he was wanting to do some of the things I do, but so few companies have subtitles in their videos. Nowadays you can get some auto generated. Those aren't always correct, but you can at least sort of, understand. But yeah, it to have lunch with him is an event. It's like
Yeah.
an event you set aside, you focus in and stuff, because I've done expressive sign for singing, but not all the little
ASL, American Sign
yes,
Language. Yeah.
yes.
Now, do you sign yourself?
No, me? No.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
logical, it's logical though, when you see, like, I do know, like, this is eat. It makes sense,
Right.
right?
More.
So there are some signs, yes, there are some signs that make sense to me when I see them, but no, I don't do sign language.
Yeah.
It's another language.
It
It's
is.
whole-
It is. And I personally think it needs to be taught. And occasionally you'll run into a school that does. My oldest granddaughter took it in school,
Oh, wow.
but I don't know how much of it she knows now.
Mhm.
Now, we
Well,
learned it
again,
in high school,
no.
so we could do this, the teacher
Right.
didn't know.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So, but very little.
Well, it's like anything. If you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I grew up in a French province
Oh, right. Quick.
in
Quebec.
Montreal, and yet people
Uh-huh.
say to me now, "Do you, can you speak French?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I've been away 40 years."
Yeah, yeah. My
And so-
grandfather taught me French as a little kid. So at 3
Yeah.
and 4, I was fluent in French. But I live in Amarillo, Texas. We don't use French here. It served
No.
me well when I worked with Lancome and some of those makeup companies. But yeah, it's like Barbara said, you don't use it, you lose it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah. And and that's true of anything that you're learning. So
Mhm.
let's have a life lesson.
Yes.
If you want to learn something, then do it. Put in the practice and do it. But if you already have something, try not to lose it.
Right. That's true.
Well, and
Why not?
nowadays you could find somebody that could speak French and just carry on a conversation once a month,
Yeah.
twice a month
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
fluent. But we didn't have that when we were kids.
Right.
There was nobody.
No one to practice with. I
Yeah.
live in California and I speak Spanish, not 100% fluently, but I do speak Spanish. And so, yes, when you're enveloped in the culture in another country, for example, it's amazing. I listen astutely and I learn as I go. That's why I said
Yeah.
fumble forward, kind of my life motto. I teach other people that too, to fall forward and fumble forward, take imperfect action. Don't worry about being perfect, just do. And so that's how I learned Spanish, is by being in my husband's family, actually, in another country, just having to learn it so that I could communicate with them.
Yes, yes. We have a friend that talks about being perfectly imperfect all the time.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah, you just have to try.
Just try.
Yeah. And talk about aging experts. I think that's one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older is acceptance. And I used to be a perfectionist. I wouldn't try something because I didn't know how to do it. And now I live my life almost the opposite, that I'm willing to try it, and do try it and do it and learn to be better at it. And I think one of my favorite terms is two favorite terms is give yourself grace.
Right.
And you can't change your mindset from I can't because to I can if. So when I'm coaching people, I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, okay, tell me more. Well, in the physicians, for example, I was coaching a group of physicians and they said, we can't make our rounds at 8 o'clock. I said, okay, tell me more. Well, the labs aren't available at 8. Results aren't available at 8. I said, okay, so you could do rounds at 8 o'clock if what? Oh, we could do rounds at 8 o'clock if the lab results were available. Okay. So we changed the time and poof, there you go. So I kind of push people to just, what could you try? Or what can you try today? Instead of waiting to have everything perfectly lined up. I never would have launched this company if I waited until everything was perfect. Certainly.
Well, and look at the loss. Look at the loss if those weren't available.
Right.
And I love that saying about if you say you can't, or if you say you can, you're right.
You're right.
You're right with both of them.
In fact, when people say around me, they say I can't, I'm going, don't cuss at me.
I
think I said it to Barbara the other day.
Change your words.
I said it to somebody the other day about, don't cuss at me. But and I can't afford is another cuss word.
Oh gosh, yes,
It's like,
absolutely.
No, you afford what you want to afford.
Exactly.
You can't afford a good, good nutrition, but you can go pick up the cigarettes or the latte every day.
Right.
It's like you afford what you want,
what you value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that really strikes me about that, of how I personally want to do business. I want to do business with people who are aligned with what I value.
Mm-hmm.
That's helping people and having purpose and having passion, and then putting your purpose and passion into something that is going to impact humanity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's a choice.
It is.
It is so nice now to hear more and more entrepreneurs and business owners who are embracing that kind of philosophy.
Yeah. That's been a shift with the shutdown.
There is just an absolute shift. Mm-hmm. And it's so, but you know what the thing is that so many people have, the ones that I work with, the same thing. Well, I can't do that. I'm 70. Well, I'm 72. Are you if you're not going to, if you don't know that you're going to die tomorrow, then 5 years from now, if you start now, 5 years from now, well, the 5 years are still going to go past. but you might have done something that has impacted somebody else.
Well, Colonel Sanders started his thing. Was he in the 60s or 70s?
Oh yeah. Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was 88.
I know, isn't that crazy? That was one of my mindset shifts that I had to work on, is that I felt like I was too old. Yeah. But then I thought, okay, and other people have said, gosh, you're 61. Why don't you just slow down and retire? And I said, because I'm still writing my story. I said, I'm not done yet. I'm not done impacting people. And now that I am 61, I said, I have the knowledge, but I also have the wisdom and the inspiration that I know that other people can benefit from. Younger women who I used to be when I was afraid and didn't know who I was and was worried about what everybody thought. And now I can offer that to them, and if I can teach them or help them with one mindset piece.
Well, and that's what scripture tells us, that the younger women are to teach the older women are to teach the younger women. And that's what this show is about, because so many of our women and men are out there and they have so much to give, and they're sitting on the sofa eating bonbons and watching soap operas because they think their life is over. It's like, no, you've got a wealth of knowledge. And nowadays you don't even have to leave home to share it. Start a YouTube channel. And if you don't know how, put it in the comments. We'll help.
That's it. One of one of my, I'm going to brag for one little
Please.
minute. The other, last week, somebody said to me, I talked about cutting hair. She said she had complimented me on my hair. And I said, oh yeah, thanks a lot, but I need to cut my hair next week. She said, oh yeah, okay. Yeah. I said, well, where do you get your hair cut? And I said, well, I cut it myself. And she said, you cut your own hair? And I said, well, I'm a hairdresser, so I've been, cutting my own hair for years. And she said, well, Barbie, is there anything that you don't know how to do? And another friend of mine, she was like, not right beside us, but several feet away. She said she turned around and looked at what person that had said that to me, and greatest compliment. She said, yeah, Barb might not know how to do it now, but if she needs to learn how to do something, she'll go out and find out how to do it.
Exactly.
You just figure it out.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly.
Figure it out. Just
Everything is figure outable. Right.
Everything is figure outable.
And nowadays so much easier than used to.
YouTube is my friend. YouTube and Google.
I was going to tell you that Google was her friend.
You can learn an awful lot on YouTube. It's incredible. Yeah, I grew my own Labradoodles, and people ask me that too. What? I said, well, it's like one is the girl I never had. So I love to groom her. And it's just, I learned how to do it. I wasn't perfect at first, but I'm much better at it. And they seem to look good. So
yeah,
exactly. One day, a couple of years ago, my youngest granddaughter, she came down the stairs, absolutely fully made up. Well, she's 11, so it must have been, she was 8.
Oh gosh.
And she came down the stairs, and I looked at her and I said, Elsa, what are you doing? What did you do? She said, oh, I got into mommy's makeup. But yeah, how did you do your face? She said, well, I was watching a YouTube video. Perfectly made up.
Exactly. So how do people get a hold of you if they want a mask or if they want some coaching on starting a new business?
Okay. They can a couple of ways. My website is www.smilemask.com. And my other website is Beyond Business. So it's www.beyondbusinessmentoring.com. And there they can schedule a discovery call. And then on the Smile Mask website, they can just contact me. I will send you my card, but I'll send you a photo of my card.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Barbara, thank you for bringing her on today. Wasn't this a great thing?
Serendipity. It's wonderful.
It's just one of those God ordained relationships right at this moment.
Yeah.
And
so guys, we have a new friend, don't we?
Absolutely.
We have a new friend.
Yes. It was wonderful to meet both of you. It was just this invitation, and I was like, okay, who's Barbara and what are we going to talk about? And then as soon as we got on the phone, it was connection. It was wonderful.
It was
great.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was on when we came on a minute ago. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Carol.
We will
Thank you,
see
Barbara.
y'all. Put your questions and comments in the chat, and please share this with your friends.